Hello, this is Stacy Harder, and I am reading Chapter 8 from Many Were Called, Few Were Chosen. Chapter 8 is Humanity's Game of Life. Let me just adjust the screen real quick. In the beginning, the loving God force had seeded the earth with beautiful beings capable of all things. These beings resonated divine love. Earthians had infinite knowledge and capabilities, but they had turned away from their wondrous heritage and chose to remember it not. The caring and concerned God essence that asked the most divine from all corners of creation to assist in the remembering. Many of these volunteers, too, turned away from the easy, loving, joyous path in order to stumble along in the jagged rocks of earthian life. Somehow those of earth assumed that this torture, this unpleasantness, was needed on earth to develop strength. The earthians believed God had willed life on earth to be difficult existence. That was not the divine plan. But it was the earthian choice. The God force lovingly accepted humanity's foolishness and continued to send divine love in the hope that humanity would someday allow love to prevail. The God essence allowed humanity choice, and choose they did. Earthians chose to compare, to judge, to ridicule, to insult, to jeer, and put down their brothers and sisters of earth. Why? God wondered, had not the Earthians been given everything? Still, the Earthians chose self-torment instead of God. They chose to compare and judge instead of love. For the first time, the loving God force felt frustration about the nature of humanity. God had given the Earthians the ability to create any life desired. The divine plan had intended and allowed for physical life to be fun and love-filled game. Humanity, however, had written different rules for this game of life. Somehow, in humanity's distorted illusion of reality, it imagined a giant line that had a hierarchical, I know this word, hierarchical, can't even say it right now. Had a giant line that had a hierarchical order. Those of Earth believed that everyone was in the giant line and those in front got privileges. They tried to beat out the person in front of them to move forward. If they could beat out or prove superior to a group of people, then great advancement in position would be gained, or so they believed. So those on Earth began this new game. They believed this new game had only one winner and that each wanted to be that winner. This game was not in harmony with the divine plan. Beat the next guy was an easy game for the Earthians to play, and all one had to do was prove superiority over others. One had to jump higher, run faster, even more money, or earn more money, have more, think better, control more, be first, and win at other such perceived competitions. Humanity failed to realize that they could indeed do this in terms of the few, but not in terms of all others. As Earthians began to look around to judge and compare themselves to others, they saw many things. They looked to their neighbor and thought, yes, I have a better job than he, and felt pride. But they also noticed, oh, his house is prettier than mine, and felt ashamed. The laws of the universe are clear. What you send out must return. When humans judge others and find them lacking, they must also judge themselves and be found wanting. Thus, Earthians began to feel the need to catch up. No matter whom they compared themselves to, there were aspects which they were better and aspects where they were not. Unfortunately, the Earthians often kept their eyes and consciousness on the areas of not. Earthians drifted lower in their vibrations, for now they began to see themselves as unworthy. For the first time, the loving God essence wept for humanity. They had been given all, and they accepted nothing. They had been made God's equal, able to co-create in a beautiful world of light and love, yet Earthians had dimmed their light. Now they even failed to see the divinity in themselves. They still recited the words, made in God's own image, but they believed it not. Even in this simple statement, humanity had twisted the words to imply that the God essence had a physical form that resembled its own. Did they not know that the physical confining form was of their own making? Did they not know that the essence that existed in their inner dwelling of humanity was the God essence? Did they not know that was why those who worked on behalf of the God essence had told them to go within and know that I am God? Did not they know? Here's a side note. Judging others takes many forms. It is relatively easy to recognize our judgment when we insult or put people down. She's fat. He's ugly. They are miserable. However, it is more difficult to recognize judgments when we say, he is so nice. Oh, Sue looks so pretty. Mike is such a nice boy. In truth, both forms are counterproductive. Both indicate that a judgment has been made. One simply has a more positive evaluation. Earthians must not put others into a good or bad categories, no matter how well meant. Instead, learn about people so that they may better serve them. It is best not to evaluate, judge, or reflect about them, for in judging others, you always judge self. An observation such as, I like your dress, is more honest and effective than, that is a pretty dress. And then going back to the last paragraph of, did they not know that was why those who worked on behalf of the God essence had told them to go within and to know that I am God? Did not they know? Of course they knew not. They had separated themselves from their God source. They had twisted and denied reality and believed illusion. They could not know this, and they did not know that they did not know, therefore they thought they knew. Earthians continued their game of beat the next guy, for in their foolishness, they were trying to get ahead. They never asked ahead of whom, for what purpose, they cared not, but continued their game. They began to teach their children this game, and children began to compete for grades, for ribbons, for affection, even for attention. The children, too, were taught that when you put down someone, you somehow got ahead. Those lessons were seldom obvious, but always present in subtle ways. The children learned the lesson well and then passed them on to their own children. Earthians had made many choices. This was their right, according to the divine plan, but Earthians had chosen to knowingly hurt another. Not just a physical hurt that could easily be healed, but a deep, everlasting emotional hurt that could last lifetimes. This was inconceivable, but the divine plan allowed for choice. All of God's creations are linked, and the actions of one creation affect all. Earthians had invented a game that lowered the vibration of everyone, for what they sent out would always return manifold. So self-esteem is in a little box. Self-esteem continues to be one of the most menacing problems facing both children and adults today. Self-esteem is lowered whenever humanity's choices to measure itself using any outside comparison. Only by going within will Earthians learn their true greatness. Their one will learn of one's own true greatness as well as the greatness of all others. The more humanity compared and thought themselves superior, the more they judged themselves inferior. The more time they spent looking at the weakness of others, the more they became aware of their own. Earthians were told many times and in many ways to judge not, Yet they did not listen. Over eons of time, many volunteers were sent to shine in the loving light of the foolish game, with the hope that it would be stopped. But the fate of this game was always in the hands of humanity. They had created the game, and only they could discontinue it. Interference would not serve the divine plan. God could have stopped the game, but that would have prevented humanity from discovering for itself the true nature of this destructive earthen game. Lifetime after lifetime, powerful volunteers were sent to Earth to illustrate and illuminate another path, another way, another more healthy and constructive game. Often they went unnoticed. Lord Sananda volunteered to again enter into physical density and shed light on this destructive game. It was hoped that this volunteer would make a difference. The time was right, the people were prepared, and this one had the power to make the Earthians hear. But would they listen? Many had been sent to prepare the path. They too had tried to help humanity see the foolishness of its ways. This one had resisted the earthing illusion on many occasions, which was why he was called upon again. He would show humanity what it was capable of becoming. The God essence called this beloved Lord Sananda into active status again. This child of the God essence would become known, the only begotten Son of God. But in truth, he was just one of the many who claimed their divine lineage. All of creation are born of God, including all of humanity. Not all of God's children are faithful, but Lord Sananda was one of those who willingly served whenever called upon by the God source. Terra beloved Mother Earth was honored, and she rejoiced in this special presence. She welcomed this volunteer and supported his efforts on her behalf. In chapter 9 is Lord Sananda, also known as Jesus, also known as Yosef. All right, I will be back with the next chapter. Thank you for listening in. You're always welcome to purchase the book at heatherharder.com. Love and light.